Hello friends, welcome back to Home Sense with Nell. First off, I want to say I hope this video finds you all safe and healthy and spending a lot of quality time with your friends and family. So I realize that it's almost the end of August and I haven't done a August garden tour. And to be honest guys, it has been so hot that I have not even wanted to come outside. I usually wait until the end of the day after work to come and check on my vegetables and my fruit. But it's been in the 90s, high 80s, and for me that's just miserable. If truth be told, I'm actually a person that likes fall and winter weather a lot better. Only time I like it hot is when I'm going to the beach, but other than that, I choose to stay inside pretty much. So anyway, I wanted to share with you guys what's going on in my garden. Again, the heat wave has taken a toll, but I do have a few things growing. So here we go. So in this pot right here, I have 4 or 5 strawberry plants that have been in here since the springtime. And I think that the heat was kind of tough on them because when they were in another part of my yard where they receive full sun all the time, I would say probably at least 12 hours a day, they just were not growing very well. I think the heat stunted them. So I went ahead and moved them under my pergola or on my patio, and they seem to be doing a lot better. However, I do not see any flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and keep an eye on those to see if the limited sunlight affects the flowering. But I can tell you that these leaves look so much better. They have so much more color, and the plants themselves have grown a couple of inches since I moved it out of that full sun area. So the next thing I want to share with you is this Shishito, I have such a hard time saying that, Shishito Pepper. The reason I picked up this transplant at the garden center was just because I heard so many good things about this pepper. And in addition to that, I wanted to see if I could grow it in a plastic bag. So I've been doing a little research lately on people using grow bags, and I think grow bags are wonderful. But because I have so many of these plastic bags due to the lack of being able to use them in the grocery store right now, I figured I'd just give it a try. And it looks like it's working. This plant used to be about 3 or 4 inches tall, and it's growing, oops, sorry about that, that's my microphone wire. It's growing just fine. And in addition to that, I noticed that this plastic bag actually retains quite a bit of moisture. I don't have to water this one quite as much as some of my other container plants. Now these 3 little cuties here, guys, are my tree collards. And they're waiting for me to transplant them into a secondary container. I received these in the mail, and I got 3. They were a package of 3, and I got them from an awesome company in Berkeley, California called the Tree Collard Project. And ever since I heard, let me think, where did I hear from these? John Kohler. So John Kohler on Growing Your Greens was the person that introduced me to tree collards, and I figured I'd go ahead and try some out for myself. They are available as seeds, cuttings, or transplants. So I went ahead and chose the transplant variety or the transplant option just because I wanted to get them in the ground sooner. So I'm really looking forward to putting those in larger containers and then eventually finding a nice spot for them in my backyard. Now here, guys, is my Black Beauty zucchini plant, and I am surprised this plant is still hanging on. I keep thinking I'm gonna, that it's at the end of its life cycle and I need to take it out of its pot, but it keeps producing zucchini, so I leave it in. As I can see, it has a couple new blooms. Oops, well, I think that was a male flower. Yeah, there's a couple new blooms on here. I don't see any zucchini, but I'm gonna just keep watching it and see what happens. Maybe later on today I will go ahead and prune this because I do see that these leaves need to be removed. They're not doing any good to the plant, and they're just probably sucking energy out of the zucchini that are coming, so I'm going to cut those off. And guys, here's another Shishito pepper that I just happened to tuck in there in this pot because I had removed another plant. And these are the petunias, the purple, what are they called? Midnight Galaxy, I believe, petunias, which are very, very pretty. As you can see, this one's kind of gotten some insect damage, but I'm hoping that they'll flush again for me sometime in the summer. So I don't want to take that out quite yet. And next, guys, here's my Better Bush tomato plant. These tomatoes are really, really good, guys. I've really enjoyed these. I've enjoyed harvesting them throughout the summer. I know that the plant looks a little tired, but it is still producing fruit. As you can see, I have quite a few tomatoes on here. Oops. So I'm just going to let it do what it does until it stops making tomatoes, or until a frost takes it. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and harvest this one pretty soon. And probably that one too. Oh, and then on the other side of that pot, I have some of those marigolds I told you guys about that I got at Dollar Tree, or the seeds were from Dollar Tree. And they actually bloomed. They had a very high germination rate. I've been really happy with those. And I had a video where I showed you guys how to collect the seeds from those marigolds for future planting season. So I'll leave a link in the iCard above if you're interested to know how to collect the marigold seeds for next spring. And here is another plant. This is another variety of tomato I've never tried, called the Bush Goliath. And it's doing pretty well. I planted it in, I want to say July. I did a video about how to up pot tomatoes, and I can leave a link to an iCard link up above in case you're interested in how to plant tomatoes. In the warmer parts of the country, like I'm in zone 10A, it is perfectly fine to plant tomatoes now. So I'll go ahead and leave a link for that if anybody's interested. And look at these now, guys. What does the tag say? What does that tag say? Husky cherry red. But as you can see, this is not a cherry tomato. I don't know what I got. It could be a Better Boy. It could be, I don't think it's a Goliath because they don't look that big. But I'm going to go ahead and harvest this one either today or tomorrow. I'm going to taste it and see if it tastes like my other tomato plant, and then I'll know. But isn't that funny that sometimes you buy transplants at the garden center and they're mislabeled, and so whatever you get is actually a surprise. I'm sure they're going to be delicious. Next up, guys, we have the Malabar Spinach, which I think I've told you guys is a really hardy, it's a heat tolerant spinach. So it's a spinach that, as far as I know, comes from Southeast Asia, and it's very heat tolerant, unlike the normal spinach that we're used to getting in our grocery store. I have not had any success growing that type of spinach in the summer because it's just too hot. But this type of spinach will grow prolifically. I mean, look, can you see? Look at these vines. This is amazing. This spinach loves the heat. It's not fussy. It's actually sharing a pot with some mini bell peppers. These are not ripe yet. They're going to be red when they're ripe. But so far I have 2 Malabar spinach and the 1 pepper in the same pot, and they're doing okay. Oh my gosh, look at this spinach. It's trying to reach out for the tomatoes. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, so you guys give this a try. I've mentioned before that it, to me, in my opinion, it tastes just like spinach that we're used to, but it does have a more watery texture. So it has a lot of fluid in it. I don't know if you can tell that the leaves are really thick, and there's a lot of moisture in there. If you don't like so much of that moisture, what I've found is that if you cut out this stem right here and don't cook this part, you don't have quite as much moisture in your finished dish. So, but I think everyone should try that. So moving on, let's see. Here is a Mexican lime, dwarf lime. I'm really excited about this. I hope that we do get fruit. I don't expect anything right now, but because it's so young, but possibly next spring, I'm hoping we might have some fruit on there. And let's see, there is my, what is that called again? Loquat tree that a coworker gave me. He gave it to me when it was just maybe about 1 foot high, and it's doing quite well. Again, all of these plants used to be in a full sun area in my garden, and because it's been so hot, just continually hot, I just felt like they were just getting abused by the sun. So I moved them all from that full sun area to this area under the pergola, just kind of as an experiment. But it seems like they're all tolerating it quite well. Actually, it seems like some of them prefer it. So the loquat's doing fine. It's growing. I will go ahead and transplant into the ground as soon as I find a place for that. And here, guys, is my cucumelin. I did a video a couple months ago about the cucumelin. It's kind of a rare vegetable, or fruit actually. I don't know if everybody's familiar with it, but it is related to the cucumber, but it looks like a teeny tiny watermelon. And they taste just like lemony cucumbers. So if you like a citrus taste, or if you're a fan of cucumbers, you can try growing this. They're really cute. So far, the best way I found to eat them is just wash them off and eat them. But they're also great in salads, and I'm thinking up a recipe for these. Trying to find a unique way to use these that hasn't been seen before and that tastes great. And if I develop that recipe, I will share it with you guys. Good. Okay, friends, so I showed you what was good in my garden, but now let me show you what's bad in my garden, because my garden is all about the good, the bad, and the ugly today. So I'm going to call this the bad because I enjoyed these sunflowers so much. They're so beautiful as they're growing, and when the flower heads finally bloom, it's just such a beautiful sight in the garden. Sometimes I would look out the window in the morning and just be in awe of this 8-foot tall plant with a beautiful golden sunflower head. And you know what's really cool about sunflowers is before the heads bloom, the sunflower plant itself searches out the sun. So during the day, it'll be pointed to the east in the morning and to the west at sunset. And it's just really cool to watch this plant moving, changing directions throughout the day. So I'm kind of sad now that the state that it's in, but I would definitely plant sunflowers again. Right now, we're going to go ahead and let that seed head dry out a little bit, and then we're going to harvest those seeds and roast them. And as you can see, I have this one big one that's still hanging on. I'm going to cut that down pretty soon. But I had a smaller one that fell down on its own, and I decided to let the birds go ahead and eat these seeds. And I'll show you what the seeds look like. I'm just allowing this one to naturally dry. So the beautiful flower petals were here, and as you can see, they're all dried and they're coming off. But underneath the flower petals are the seeds. Hopefully you can get this on camera. You see that? Those are the sunflower seeds. So once they're dried on the plant, you can take them inside and let them dry for a couple days, and you can eat them. So yeah, but I'm leaving this one for the birds. I'm sure, as I can see, a couple of birds have already gotten to them. So I'll leave that one right here. And I'm also going to reuse this stalk because it's really, look at this. It's pretty firm. I think I can use this for a trellis, actually, for some beans or something. So I'm going to try to recycle that, but I'm just going to leave it here for now. Hopefully they'll take this one and they won't touch this one. That's for us. Oh, okay. So this is the bad, but this is not bad. This, can you guys guess what this is based on the leaves? Growing under here is a sweet potato. I found a sprouted sweet potato in my pantry, believe it or not, and I stuck it in here just to see what would happen, and it is growing. I'm so excited about that. Not only because I love sweet potatoes, so I know eventually I'm going to have a sweet potato harvest for free, but secondly, that I have some friends that told me that in their country they eat the leaves, which I'd never heard of, but they said they're very good. So not only do you have the crop of the root, which is a sweet potato, but you also have the crop of the leaves, which are going to be really tasty in a stir fry. And I think that's a volunteer corn, so I have to think about whether or not, wow, how'd that get there? Anyway, think about whether or not I'm going to keep that, because it might, I don't know if it's going to interfere with the sweet potato, but we'll see. Okay, let's move on to this little bed. So if you guys have been with me for a while, you may know that I made this little bed. I just made this really quickly out of fence boards and 2x4s, mainly because I needed another planting space, and that was the least expensive option for me at the time. So in this bed, I have a couple of strawberries that are not doing too well. I think that this bed gets a lot of sun. I had kale in here and I had to take it out because the kale just didn't like it. So I think it might be too much sun for these two strawberries, unfortunately, but we'll see. I have a crookneck. I think this is a crookneck. Nope, it's a straight neck squash. Waiting to see what that's going to do. So far, this has not been productive like my black beauties. I think I've harvested one squash off of this and that's it. It almost seems like it's stunted. I'm not sure why, but we'll see how that goes. Is this corn again? I think it is. It looks like, how is this corn getting everywhere? Okay, well, there's more corn. I'm not going to leave that in there, though. I don't think that's going to be a good idea. Take that out. And guys, I think I told you in one of my last videos that ground cherries are delicious, delicious fruit. Not that well known. This is actually my second ground cherry plant because the first one, well, let me show you. I'll show you rather than explain what happened to that one. But I'm waiting for these to, oh, do we have any? Yeah. Oh, somebody got it. So ground cherry, if you've been with me, you know that the ground cherry is a plant that is part of the nightshade family. And you know that these fruit are ripe when they drop to the ground naturally. Once they drop to the ground naturally, you can enjoy them. But up until that point, you should not eat those because you can get sick. Because they are nightshades, like tomatoes and peppers and eggplant. Those vegetables, you do need to make sure that they're ripe when you eat them. And you only eat the fruit. You don't eat the leaves or the stems or anything like that. Okay. Now here's another bad thing. I don't know what happened to my sweet corn. It was off to a really good start when I planted it. And we even got tiny, tiny ears of corn, as you can see. There's one. And actually, here's another one. But the corn never matured. Like this corn right here is only about this big. This one's only that big. And I just don't know what happened. I watered this. Every time I would water my container, any of my container gardens, I would water this. I'm not sure if I overwatered it. I gave it fish fertilizer about once every 10 days or so, actually about once every 7 days. So I don't know if that might have had something to do with it. But yeah, this was a very unsuccessful corn harvest this year. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these out and refresh the soil and probably plant something else in these 5-gallon buckets. Okay guys, so you've seen the good and the bad, and here's the ugly. So man, well, at the end of the planting season or the end of the summer season, I often feel kind of sad and disappointed at the way my garden beds look. Oh my gosh, my dog's getting dirt all over me. Look at that. What is he doing? Probably found a gopher. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just sad and disappointed every time I look at this thing now, but I want to share with you guys what's happened. So this is the first pineapple ground cherry plant that I had, and I showed you just a moment ago the newer plant that I have, the newer transplant. This is the first one that I had. Look at this, guys. The sun has burnt it to a crisp. I just can't believe it. We were enjoying these fruits. They taste like a delicious citrusy pineapple-y. I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but they're really good. They're really unique. And this is what I have left of this plant here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it, and I'm going to have to make room for something else. And I know it's necessary to do this in your garden, but I always feel kind of sad when I take stuff out of the garden. So that's out. Oh, so here's an oak leaf lettuce, which is a heat tolerant lettuce, but still heat tolerant doesn't mean that, you know, it's heat immune. So it obviously went ahead and bolted, and it's going to seed. I don't think I'm going to save the seeds for this one, even though it was delicious, but now that it's getting time for fall planting, I want to go ahead and make some room in my garden. So I'm going to pull those out too. Saving as much of the soil as I can. I'm sorry about the dogs, guys. We have a lot of dogs in our neighborhood. And actually, wow, that was just one oak leaf lettuce, but I got a lot of stalks out of that. All right, that's out. And next, guys, I'm going to remove this marigold. This marigold, I was, again, so happy with it. I was really pleasantly surprised that all of my Dollar Tree seeds germinated so well. But, oh man, this thing is tough. It's time to take it out now. And I did save quite a few seeds for planting when the time is right. But for now, we're going to take these out and make room for our fall veggies. Guys, I'm planning on planting quite a few fall veggies this year. I'm really excited about the collards and the kale and the kohlrabi. I might try broccoli again. I wasn't too successful with broccoli the last season because they got attacked by aphids. But I think I'm ready to try again. Guys, this is my chard. Chard is one of my favorite veggies, but I think we've harvested from these 2 chard plants so many times that they're not really growing back anymore. Normally this is a pretty tall and beautiful plant, so I might go ahead and take those out. Let me think about that. And I just have my little Fresh Bites orange pepper. I'm going to leave that one in for a little while because it's still producing. In fact, I'm going to harvest this a little bit later on. And this is a crookneck squash, crookneck yellow squash. And actually I see one right here. Look at that. So I'll leave this in the bed. Oh, there's another one. I'll leave this in the bed. I won't remove that one right now. But I will go ahead and take out this squash plant. This one is done. It produced a couple vegetables for us, and now it's at the end of its life. So sad. And I will again take out these marigolds. And guys, if you have marigold plants that look like this, of course, again, you can save the seeds from the flower heads. I showed you on a video that I made about a week ago, but I'll show you again. All you do is open up the dried flower head. You make sure it's dry. This one's completely dry. Open it up, and those are marigold seeds. So you can harvest those. What I did was harvest them and let them dry inside the house for about 24 hours. Put them in a paper envelope, and you can save them for the next time it's marigold planting season. Look at that. All those flowers you can have for free. So yeah, that's awesome. Actually, I'm going to drop those right there. Maybe we'll get some marigolds. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and take all of these out. Oh man, this is so sad. Now I'm debating whether or not I'm going to put these in my compost bin, because I'm worried that if I do, I'll have seeds in my compost and I'll have marigold flowers growing everywhere. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll put the plant minus the flower heads into the compost. Now guys, this is my rosemary, and I love using rosemary, especially with chicken and fish, and even stews. I'm probably going to transplant this because it has a capacity to get really, really big, and I don't want it taking up so much room in my bed. And I think it's a perennial, so being a perennial, I want to move it somewhere permanent in the garden. So the next time I do this garden tour, this probably won't be here. Oh, and I forgot to mention the yellow pear tomato. So the yellow pear tomato is a first for me this season. I've never grown a pear tomato before, and I think they're really beautiful, especially when they're ripe. They're a beautiful golden yellow color. But I do have to say that I think they're lacking in flavor a little bit. To me, the flavor of these just doesn't compare to the cherry tomatoes or the traditional red tomato. So I'm not sure that I'm going to grow this one again. But for now, I'm glad that I tried it. I'm really glad that I gave it a try, just so I can see, you know, whether or not the family likes it. Have you tried it? No, my camera girl says she hasn't tried it either. I've tried it several times, and it's okay. It's a drier fruit. It doesn't have a lot of moisture in it, and it just doesn't have a very pronounced flavor in, you know, that I can describe. So I would probably not grow this one again. Okay, so let's go over here. So this is my second smaller garden bed that I have, and my basil, because it's been so hot, has bolted. My green onions have been attacked by something. Don't know what that is. And my cherry tomato plant is just hanging on. Since here in zone 10A we don't have a lot of frost, sometimes tomato plants can overwinter. So I'm debating whether or not I'm going to leave this in and see if it can start producing again, or if I should just take it out. I'll probably make up my mind tonight when I start planning my fall garden a little bit more carefully. But for now, as you can see, there are a few, oh, I can take that one. There's a few ripe tomatoes on here, and there are a few vines that are still producing. But we're gonna have to see how that goes. But I will be removing the basil soon because it's all bolted. I was coming out here and pinching off flowers every chance I could get, but I just couldn't keep up with it. It was just so hot, and it really wanted to go to seed. So that's what it did. And I want to share with you guys my 5-gallon container garden that I did a video about a couple months ago. These were all planted in 5-gallon containers as a way to start a garden without leaving my house. So at the time when I started this garden, it was right in the beginning of the shelter at home orders. I really didn't want to go out if I didn't have to. So I ordered all of these pots on the internet, either from Amazon or from Lowe's. I ordered the soil from Lowe's. And so I was able to start this entire garden without going outside. And I thought that was great. So here we have, in the front pot, we have, that's just a scrap, a scrap bucket. There's nothing in there but a lettuce that I'm allowing to go to seed. Behind that we have I think it's a Market More cucumber. There's actually a cucumber dangling on the other side. I'm going to get that later. Then we have the giant Marconi peppers, which are slowly becoming ripe. I'm really excited about trying that one because it is a smoky pepper, and I've never tried a smoky pepper. And then I have 3 more buckets. The one in the back had runner beans, I think they were, and I've since removed those. And that is another cherry tomato plant, which is not yet producing, but I'm going to give that time. And down here I have a very sad looking spaghetti squash. I'm getting kind of impatient because, as you can see, there's a spaghetti squash there. It has not grown in size in a couple of weeks. I know that spaghetti squash take quite a while to mature, so I'm just going to try to leave it alone and keep watering it and see what happens. But as long as I do see new blooms coming, I'm excited about that, and I'll go ahead and prune off the dead leaves on this side. It's just been so hot, guys. And here after losing hope with the other 2 corn containers that we had, we went ahead and started another container here. So those are both corn plants, and we'll see how those do. And then finally on this side, we have, I think those are sugar baby watermelons, I'm not sure, but there's 2 watermelons coming from that 5-gallon container. And since the vines aren't very long, I decided to just support the melons on those upturned trash cans, which I use for as insect control for my new plants. But I just decided to let them go ahead and sit on those so they're not dangling in midair. I don't want them to fall off. And then right behind that, I have, if you can see back there in the corner, is more Malabar spinach. And that's those sprouted really quickly once the weather got warm. I just stuck some seeds in that pot, I think about 4 seeds, and they sprouted really quickly. Okay, friends, so that's the end of my August garden tour of the good, the bad, and the ugly in my garden. Thanks again for visiting Home Sense with Nell. On my channel, I like to talk about home decor, DIYs, gardening, and other topics related to making your home your sanctuary on a budget. If that's the type of content you enjoy, please give me a big thumbs up. Please leave me a comment down below, and please subscribe. And I'll see you next time.